it could work really well. So let's see. All right, we're live. So it is Tuesday morning and it is time for the Woot Recruit Live. Last week we talked on our profit flywheel for recruiting, how to become a more profitable recruiter when it comes to hiring. But today we want to answer a question. It is kind of a popular question. It's a question we get often, and it is, can I put age requirements in my job ad? Can I put age requirements in my application?
Mm-hmm.
And so this is something that many business owners do and don't know the legality around it. So first disclaimer, Woot Recruit is not an HR solution. We are a recruiting solution. We're a recruiting software and service. But we have to know a lot of the laws or regulations around what's legal and not legal. So the first thing I want to say is, always reach out, check your state laws, federal laws, just to check. But I'm going to just read some of my notes here so we can kind of dive into the topic of putting age requirements. Can this get your Indeed account flagged? Chris, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, so I love this. I love this question only because it's something that not many people want to deal with, but it's the ugly truth of making sure that things are always running smoothly for your company. And it says, will it get your Indeed account flagged?
Yes.
Absolutely. And there's two different ways that it could happen. One is through the AI and how it combs through and scrapes through just based on keywords and certain phrases and patterns. And so that's number one. That's the fastest way to know if something is wrong inside of your ad. The second thing is manual investigation, either from an Indeed rep or from an applicant themselves who do see something that's very, usually very, let's say polarized or very, what's the word? Just a hot topic with things that might not be legal or borderline just by the way it's phrased. So I think that's where things get a little bit murky is you might have seen where it happens automatically and it's like, oh, you can't do this. And then you go ahead and it gives you suggestions to fix it. Then there's the more subjective part of not really knowing, but your accounts are shut down. It happens very often, especially for companies that we bring in through Woot Recruit. And usually we have to kind of work around and clean things up after the fact. But it's that subjective piece that's really hard for people to nail down what's really wrong with that application or that job ad or the application itself. So the question.
It's not necessarily the job ad or the application, it's your questions.
Yeah.
And so just because as a business owner, we don't want people under 25 or 21 because we think they're irresponsible, one is discriminating. And we can't ask that. At the end of the day, just because that's something that we think, and it's typically because we've been burnt in the past, we've had bad experiences, it is illegal to ask for someone's in an application or on a job ad to say they have to be of a certain age or ask for their birthday or ask for when they graduated high school or college or any dates where you could ultimately figure out their age is illegal in a job post and an application unless it is a skill or trade that requires or your insurance requires that you only hire someone of 21 years of age or older. Example is, I used to own a bar and bartenders, they had to be of certain age. So it was a legality, it was a federal law, my insurance required it. So I could put that in my job posting. So unless your insurance is requiring it, and this is the other thing is your insurance might give you a better deal if the drivers are over 25, but it's not necessarily required. And so that is when we walk that really risky line of discriminating. And the thing is applicants know the laws. Applicants know the laws probably more than the business owner because they've taken the time to educate themselves, where we're operating at a higher risk by just throwing stuff up there and not making sure that it's compliant, that it's legal, and that it's not discriminating.
Yeah, and I want to give a quick example here. Is there were things that were, let's say, legal to present on an application or a job post before, but take for example the government and jobs there is they've actually started to lift and open up some of those legal requirements in working for the government, and so no longer do you actually need to have a clean background, but it's more so of a that process of just being transparent with your background. And so times are evolving and laws will always change. And so that's also the tricky part is that if you're basing what you have out there off of laws that were
5 years ago, 10 years ago, pre-COVID,
yes,
you need to update we need to re-educate ourselves.
Yes. And so I think that's the stickiest part of all is what used to be legal. Sometimes it evolves and evolves out.
So let's talk about legal and illegal. And this is a hot topic question is if I'm putting in my application that I want to ask for their birth date, their social security number, their driver's license, technically that's illegal to ask. And somebody's like, yeah, but I was told I could ask that. And there's a gray line there. And the line is you cannot ask that to an applicant. There's no commitment. They're not an employee. You have not given them an offer. You can ask that to an applicant you offered the job to so that you can run a background check and their hire, their employment is contingent on the fact that they pass it or not. But you cannot ask for a birthday, a social security number, or any of those things before an offer is extended.
Yeah.
You can't. It's because they could say it's discriminating. I have a great friend. He's got a super large business. He did this a few years ago, and he copied someone else's job ad, like another company of that same industry. He was in pest control. He copied another person's Indeed job posting because he thought it was great. And when someone reads your application, I have a new camera, so it's following me. So when someone reads your Indeed application, and maybe you're located in Oklahoma, and that's legal in Oklahoma, but maybe you've discriminated in New York, and because Indeed applications are all over the world, you just have to make sure that you're not copying and pasting things blindly where it may be legal in your state, but it is illegal in a state like California or New York, who has stricter laws, because they got sued by an applicant. The person didn't even apply to the job. They got sued, and the applicant won for discrimination against that company because they felt discriminated against in a whole nother state. This person was in one state, the applicant was in another, and it broke those state laws. It was New York State. So making sure I'm very like, one of my biggest pet peeves is people copying other people's job ads, because then you're going to attract the wrong applicant. Like, you're not going to attract the avatar that's great for your company. But my other pet peeve is you could be hurting yourself and not even know. Yeah. So the copy and paste blindly can be dangerous. Just proofread it, make sure it fits your company, make sure it's compliant. As business owners, like, we operate like rogue. We don't care. We want it like this. We want to ask that. But in reality, until someone tells you, like, hey, honey, pep down, you can't do that. Believe me, I've had it said to me. You're kind of like, oh, like, I didn't know that. And it's okay that we didn't know it until we're told different. And then that's when it becomes, that's when it becomes wrong. We have to make sure, if we do know, then we need to operate at a higher, more respectable capacity. The other thing is, as your businesses grow, guys, you are subject to more and more and more and more risk and liability. The larger your business is, the more attention it brings, the more money it makes, the more attention you bring to things like the IRS, the labor board, and competitors. You know how many times I've been turned in by a competitor here locally? And, I found that I didn't want to operate with any risk. So I do everything absolutely compliant, legal, and make sure that if we get turned in or we draw attention because we're making volume, in revenue or volume in hiring employees, that we're fine.
Yeah, and so really, with these, let's say, legal boundaries and being careful with job ads and stuff, it's, I use the same example of insurance. The saying is,
I don't know how to get the camera over there. Wait, the camera's going that way.
I'll this way. So insurance, funny thing about it, and the same way it relates with laws and such and security is, insurance is never important until you need it.
No.
And so I think this comes true with many people and business owners, is that it's never something that's and I don't mean this in any disrespect, but it's never really important until you've already experienced that issue, and then you take it seriously, and then you make it a part of that process. And so I just wanted to give this subjectively is that if you feel that you want to limit that risk, then, same thing with life insurance, same thing with other things that people may or may not, get. It's, what level of risk are you open to taking? And is it worth doing something about it now versus later?
And that's a great question. Oh, the camera keeps coming back, man. The camera likes me. I was trying to shift it. And that's a great question. It's just one of my good friends, Megan Likes, with writing expenses off. She said to me the other day, it depends on how much risk you want to assume.
Mm-hmm.
You can write everything off if you want, but are you willing to take on the risk if something happens, if a red flag happens? And so that's just the question you have to ask yourself when it comes to just operating legally and compliantly, so that you're minimizing your risk at the end of the day as a business owner. And that's the key. That's what's important when it comes to, it's just not going to stay over when it comes to recruiting. So, me and Chris's mission here are to really help people understand recruiting. How do I recruit more profitably?
Yes.
The other day, we had someone who was complaining about recruiting cost. Recruiting cost them $499. They hired 4 people
in a month.
And that is revenue potential, if that's cleaning, of, let's just say, $80,000 in annual revenue. That's $320,000 in potential money that company could make for $499, which is 0.1% of total revenue. So our mission is to really teach that profitable recruiting. How do I recruit really, really well? How do I recruit great people? But also, how do I do it cheap? How do I do it not cheap, but how do I do it profitably?
Yes.
Business owners, we like cheap. We're cheap. But how do I do it profitably? How do I know if I'm overspending? How do I know if I'm underspending? And some of the things you could be doing could honestly be costing you an astronomical amount in recruiting, in your recruiting cost. It could be driving up your Indeed cost. And there are things that you're doing that you don't even know, like asking these type of questions.
Yeah, it's like me doing my own taxes. I'm probably doing a few things.
Yeah,
right,
like asking these type of questions, you're going to get a lower engagement, lower people apply, lower clicks, lower impressions. You're going to get your ad taken down or flagged. And it's going to cost you money and time, which drives up the percentage. I should have put a percent here, which drives up the percent of your total recruiting cost when you look at it from total revenue, the percentage of total revenue. So that's our mission. Super excited. I love doing these lives. I love seeing everyone who was on here watching this morning. Dom, I saw you on here. And I saw Gabe and Maria as well. But if you guys have questions, drop them in here. And again, our mission is to just share what we know to everyone, whether you're a Woot Recruit customer or not. We're trying to help businesses grow and change the world's perception of cleaning.
Yes.
Have a great day, guys.